A reporter and a photographer were sent to cover progress on these two skyscrapers under construction, which were meant to be joined by this crosswalk. When they got to the top, there was just a simple I-beam at this point connecting the two buildings, and they watched workers move back and forth across that, even being several hundred feet above the ground. And the photographer said, "Could you imagine doing that?" He said, "No way I would ever do that." He said, "Well, would you do it?" Somebody said, "I'll give you $1,000. He said, "Absolutely not." And he said, "Would you do it if your kid was on the other end and was in trouble?" And he said that even before he answered, he could tell from the look in his eyes that the answer was yes, yes, he would. The difference, of course, was what he would keep his eyes and his heart focused on. He would do it for love. Today, Jesus speaks of the fire that burns in his heart, the dream that burns in his heart. And he speaks of how hard it is going to be to get to the fullness of that dream, of the sufferings and losses to be met along the way. He's not saying that the divisions that come from following him are a good thing. They are not a good thing. The divisions and the resultant heartache. But he is saying that, sadly, this is how things are. We will face struggles and heartaches, sometimes even just for doing the right thing. So, how do we do it? How do we stay loving and true? How do we try to continue to choose to do the loving thing, right? Even knowing it's going to get tough sometimes. Well, today, St. Paul gives us in today's second reading this answer. He says, "We persevere in running this race with our eyes fixed on Jesus." We do it by keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus, on his way, by keeping our eyes fixed on the right and the loving thing, right? Like the guy who would crawl across the I-beam for the sake of his kid. If we keep our eyes and hearts focused, as did Jesus, on what is the next loving thing to do, we'll be able to do it like Jesus did as well, right? One example. It's the start of a new school year. You know, all the work and sacrifices of teachers and staffs and priests and parents. How do we do it? We do it by keeping our eyes and hearts focused on the right thing, which is our job to help create values in these kids that last. It's the loving thing to do for the world, to love them well. You know, I do believe that the dream that burns in the heart of Jesus, he counts on the kids entrusted to our care to be a part of bringing that dream to its fullness. So we are to help form children who, one, know that they matter, two, are aware and understand that everybody suffers, right? And then three, that therefore it is crucial that they would be kind. They matter. Everybody hurts. We are called to be kind. And Jesus knows that if kids live that way, they too will suffer, but that they will ultimately have what they need inside to be okay. They will, right? And that they will also help bring about that dream that burned in his heart. And so it is with all efforts that are noble for the good of all, right? Important in our work to protect this fragile planet entrusted to our care. How we keep our eyes out for our neighbors in need, even as we work to have, loving, healthy homes ourselves. The crucial, discouraging work to help reduce hunger and starvation in this world. The care we put into our liturgies and our ministries here so that people can sense the love of Christ in our every gathering, anytime they walk through the doors. The hard work of peacemaking and bridge building and inclusion, and all the ways we try in our time here on earth to bring about those things Jesus proclaimed, that he lived, for which he died, and for which he continues to pray that we will do our part to bring to its fullness. Again, it can get tough sometimes, right? Maybe feel lonely. So, I asked, what helps you? Well, I'll also ask this question, who helps you? You have, I hope, you have people who encourage the best in you, who celebrate kindness and love when they see it in you. I hope this church family does. I hope you have some family members, some friends who encourage that in you. I hope that you have people, maybe if you've never even met them personally, but you just know by their noble lives that you get inspired yourself to be a loving and good person. I hope you have that. And even if you don't, St. Paul reminds us today also of this, that there, in addition to all those folks, he says there is a great cloud of witnesses that spurs us on. This unseen, loving presence cheering for the best in us. Who's he talking about? What's he talking about? He's talking about all those holy women, men, and children who've gone before us, who've lived good and noble lives, who are praying for us in our time because they would tell us from their vantage point that it's worth it. It's worth it to stay loving and true. And that includes our family saints, right? Who are your family saints? Who are my family saints? Who do you believe is pulling for you from the other side of this life, that you would be a good and loving human being? I'll ask again. Who do you believe is pulling for you from the other side, that you would be a good and loving human being? They're part of that great cloud of witnesses that spurs us on, that cheers for us, helping us keep our eyes focused, our hearts focused on what is loving and true. Again, today's scriptures won't let us forget that there is often a price to pay for what is right and loving and good and true. 2, that it is worth it to choose love. 3, that we are not alone in doing so. And 4, that when we keep our eyes and hearts focused on Jesus and on his way of loving, that dream that burned in his heart will more and more shine through us now in our time on earth.